whether they stopped caring about the quality of their work or just left Hollywood entirely. Welcome to Beyond the Screen, I'm Nate, and these are the top 10 Hollywood celebrities who gave up. Number 10. Adam Sandler. Adam had a pretty stellar career up until 2011. After starring in the sketch show Saturday Night Live, Adam was being taken seriously as a comedic actor and was given his first on-screen gig in 1989's Going Overboard. It's a movie about a young comedian taking a job on a cruise ship hoping for his big chance to make it in the world. The movie did terribly, but thankfully it wasn't Adam's fault because he didn't write the thing, so he was given another chance a few years later in the classic comedy Airheads. That's when Adam's career really took off. He was casted as the leading man in several movies between 1995 and 2000, including some that he co-wrote, like Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, and The Waterboy, all sports-themed movies. Confusing. Honestly, his movies were some of my favorite growing up, and I had all of his DVDs. Up until Jack and Jill, the movie that told the world that Adam had given up. The movie starred Adam starring as a twin brother and sister trying to get closer over the holidays. Terrible premise, right? But just wait! There's a B-plot where Al Pacino falls for that sister and stars in a Dunkin' Donuts commercial, which is just the most obvious and obnoxious cash grab ever. Since then, Adam's movies seem to just be an excuse for him and his family to get a working vacation. Just Go With It was the first big budget follow-up for Adam, and the story took place in Hawaii, where they also filmed majority of the project. He's actually set a few of his movies in Hawaii, one in Africa, and even one in Toronto, which isn't tropical but still Canadian vacay. Since signing his deal with Netflix releasing several movies exclusively to the platform, he has continued to pump out meh after meh. Except for Hubie Halloween, that movie is adorable. Number 9. Cameron Diaz. Cameron's break from the acting world was a massive shock to her fans. Her career was going nowhere but up following her role in the 1995 comedy classic The Mask alongside Jim Carrey. She was even given a cozy little position working in a sound booth alongside Mike Myers and Eddie Murphy in the animated series Shrek, that currently sits at 4 movies. Come on, baby, bring home the 5th. While she suddenly stopped acting in 2014, it wasn't until 2018 that she officially announced that she would be retiring from the acting world to focus more on her family life and mental health. According to Cameron, working at such a high caliber for such a long period of time took a ton out of her, and following the negative reviews from her movies like Bad Teacher and SEX Tape, yeah, I can't say it, but I can spell it, she apparently took the comments to heart and decided to give up her acting career. She will be making one more movie appearance in an upcoming action movie starring Jamie Foxx that just wrapped production roughly a month ago and is set to release sometime early in 2024. However, just days after the set wrapped, she announced that she would once again be returning to the world of motherhood, as the long set days now only acted as time that she could be spending with her family. Number 8. Nick Cage. Nick Cage is one of the most unhinged actors that's still working in Hollywood today. If you want to watch one of his movies, you have like 100 to choose from. This dude pumps out movie after movie, keeping the paychecks coming in. But just because he's making movies left and right doesn't mean that he cares about his job. Between 1990 and 2000, Nick starred in several box office successes that should have landed him in a really comfortable spot financially, but instead Nick chose to use that money on stuff. He bought houses, cars, boats, and he had almost $10 million in his pocket by 1999, but he spent the past 20 years owing almost $4 million in taxes and fees, which is why it sometimes feels like he's just given up creatively speaking. His movies are either hits like Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, or floppy flop-flops like The Wicker Man. He maintained a steady stream of work, but it's only been this past year that Cage really seems to be enjoying his job again, with Renfield being a surprise hit with fans, claiming Nick's performance as the undead Prince of Darkness was the most alive that he's been in years. Alright, number 7. Al Pacino. What's my name? Dunkachino. Alright, a song and dance that lives rent-free in my skull thanks to the movie Jack and Jill, previously mentioned on this list. Now, Al was no slouch in the acting department when he first started regularly appearing on screens in the 1970s. His role as the iconic no-no-snow enthusiast Scarface has gone down in history as one of the most powerful performances of all time. However, Al's career took a massive dip after Jack and Jill. The role of him playing himself made the world see him as a bit of a kooky old man, which is exactly what he started being casted as. In movies like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and House of Gucci, Al looks like he was given the script on the day of, that he was squeezed into a suit and physically plopped into place by a PA or something. With Al now being a new dad at the age of 83, yeah, that's true, it appears that he has given up his screen time for more of a wholesome family life with his mistress and his wife. What? Number 6. Samuel L. Jackson. Sam is an incredible actor and is one of the examples of actors on this list who gave up in the sense that they just stopped trying so hard to do their jobs, because he just got too good at it. Sam got his start in movies like Pulp Fiction and Jurassic Park, and for the past few years he's been working in a cozy acting gig as the man who created the Avengers, Colonel Nick Fury, recently starring in his own Disney Plus series that was centered around his character. But what that means is for the past 10 years, this man has just shown up to set, put on an eye patch, and done his job. No ifs, no ands, no buts. He has appeared in many projects outside of Marvel in movies like Glass or The Hitman's Bodyguard, but even then, he just leans into his own mannerisms and charm, delivering constantly solid performances with basically no effort. Number 5. Eddie Murphy. Eddie is massive in the world of comedy and is considered an on-screen legend, portraying characters like the Nutty Professor, Mushu from Mulan, and of course, Donkey from Shrek. However, between 2005 and 2012, Murphy was starring in movies that were noticeably worse in quality than what we were used to. Movies like Meet Dave, 1,000 Words, Tower Heist, they all felt like movies that he had been forced to make. In fact, following 1,000 Words, he actually decided to take a break from acting entirely, making his return in 2016's Mr. Church. Despite popping up in a few movies since, like Coming to America or You People, Eddie has been taking breaks between filming, with his next performance still up in the air. Number 4. Chris Hemsworth. In his early days of acting, Chris was starring in every genre that would take him, never really finding his footing, popping up in movies like Star Trek or Cabin in the Woods, but the world universally agreed that action was going to be his realm, thanks to the success of the first Thor movie. Over the next few years, Chris attempted to branch out into other projects, starring in movies like In the Heart of the Sea and Black Hat, but things shifted when he got the chance to work on the universally hated Ghostbusters reboot from 2016, starring an all-female lead cast, with Chris acting as their secretary. Hey, you can hate me all you want, that movie had an incredible cast and it would have done so much better if the internet weren't so terrible. But the one thing people actually agreed on is that Chris did a wonderful job and he was responsible for some of the funniest moments of the project. But fun fact, before that movie, he was never actually encouraged to improvise his lines. Instead, he just stuck to his script and moved on. Instead, just sticking to the script. He had an incredible time on set, and when it came to start production on the third entry of the Thor franchise, Chris had a brilliant idea. And thankfully, the director Taika Waititi had a massive background in comedy and was happy to see Chris have so much fun on set. It seems that ever since Ghostbusters, Chris has just given up trying to be some cool, edgy, quiet guy and has instead embraced himself as a lovable giant who can still throw down if he needs to. Number 3. TJ Miller. Many fans of the Marvel Universe will recognize TJ as Weasel, but many may know him as Erlich Bachman from the hit HBO series Silicon Valley. Between 2014 and 2020, Miller was on a hot streak. He has a unique voice that was perfect for voiceover, and he was considered to be an elite in the world of comedy. However, in the past few years, Miller has remained pretty quiet in the world of Hollywood, and that unfortunately has to do with a long battle of substance control issues. TJ is a connoisseur of many different narcotics and substances, and following his stepping away from Silicon Valley, Miller found it harder and harder to secure steady work. He was hoping to develop his own series or possibly lead a franchise, instead of just popping up in one like in Transformers 4. Instead, Miller fell deep into his hobby, and unfortunately a surgery he had a couple of years after filming the live-action Yogi Bear movie left him needing medication to regulate his brain functions, something that he's admitted to being an attributing factor of why he has such a rough reputation in Hollywood. Rather than continue to make bad movies and moving on, he decided to just stop acting entirely and focus on his mental health. Number 2. Jeff Cohen. Now, Jeff's name may not be familiar to you, but his most iconic and only acting role certainly is. Jeff played Chunk in the much-loved classic adventure movie The Goonies. Chunk was one of the many young actors in search of the treasure of One-Eyed Willie, so they can save their small seaside neighborhood from being bulldozed to the ground. This movie has aged like a fine wine, and it just gets better and better the older you get. Jeff stole the show and truly stood out among the ensemble. Who could forget his notorious interrogation action scene. This man almost got blended. Following the success of the movie, many were under the impression that he was going to have a long and fruitful career. While his co-stars went to star in franchises like Lord of the Rings and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Jeff decided to go the opposite direction and he quit acting entirely. Unfortunately for Jeff, he was being pegged as a chubby actor, so that's exactly what people were trying to cast him in. And rather than give him room to grow and breathe, studios were trying to typecast him as the big nerdy guy in every single project. Finding it difficult to secure work, it was unfortunately puberty that secured his fate. He was going from chunk to hunk, according to an interview with the Daily Mail. Eventually, he realized it just made sense to give up for now and try something new. So that's exactly what he did. He went to school, he focused on his mental health, and he got a degree in law. He now works out of a law firm that he co-founded with his business partner, Cohen. So that's pretty cool. And at number 1, Harrison Ford. Harrison is of course the man behind the whip and hat of Indiana Jones, who's a character who just had his 5th film released in theaters with a massive box office return. Now, this is an entry where I mean nothing to be negative towards Harrison, and when I say he's given up, I mean that he just doesn't have to act anymore. Harrison is in his 80s, believe it or not, but he is still considered by his friends and family to be a lively troublemaker, not unlike his Star Wars character Han Solo, another character that he simply just does not care about perfecting anymore because he knows that he already has. In his early days playing these characters when they first premiered, Harrison felt tremendous pressure. As soon as the films were successful, 2 franchises rested on his shoulders. But over the years, the more times he had to step into the shoes of his alter egos, the more comfortable he seemed to become. Harrison gave up trying to be good a long time ago, and just simply is. Those are the top 10 celebs who gave up. Did we miss any actors who clearly gave up? Well, let us know in the comments below. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you very much. Please leave a like if you enjoy our content and you want to see more. Thanks for stopping beyond the screen today, and we'll see you next time.